Today we're going to make a portable camp shower. For this project, I have a few things here. Starting off, I have this 7-gallon aqua container. I also went ahead and picked up this HDX multi-use pump sprayer. So the general idea is I want to take the components of the sprayer and use it to pressurize the larger container. After that, we need to convert it to work with a hose. So I have this hose sprayer as well as some tubing. That's kind of interesting. Box kind of folds open to reveal the sprayer. Some pretty cool packaging for a $12 sprayer. I want to try to find a way to incorporate the pump into the lid of this container here, and then this tubing, depending if I can convert it to work with that spray nozzle, we'll see if we need this or not. This is the lid to the water container, and as you can see, there's already a hole right through there that was to the faucet. Obviously, it's a little too small to make this fit inside of it, so we need to enlarge it. So I think what I'm going to do is just trace around the pump with a Sharpie and then use my Dremel with a sanding bit to just carefully enlarge it until I get it to the right size here. We have our pump going through the lid of the container here. Once I have everything kind of situated, I will go, of course, back around and seal everything up to make them airtight. But for now, this should be pretty much good. I do have a couple of options here for making the hose. Now, the first thing I want to try is to see if maybe this connection on the original sprayer will fit on this threaded port here. And if it does, I mean, that would be pretty lucky here. So the sprayer does have this little central piece. I don't know if you can really see that, probably not. That's preventing this from actually going down all the way to see if I can thread this on. So I'm going to have to enlarge this hole. So let's go ahead and enlarge this hole here. Let's try this again here. So that, okay, perfect. That fits in here and does this. Ooh, did that work? Oh, I lucked out with that. Okay, perfect. The sprayer does come with this standard, I guess, tube to reach the bottom of this container. Unfortunately, it is not long enough to reach the bottom of this one. Luckily, this tubing happens to fit perfectly over this one here, so I could elongate it with just using this guy. Now, this tube should reach the very bottom of the container there. Now all we have to do is connect this piece here, like that. We can feed this tube in and screw this on. Now, I am going to throw some Teflon on this connection here just to make it really airtight. So initially my plan was to just purely use this tube and feed it into the container, glue around it and seal it up, and then I had some PVC connections to attach to this with an end cap, and I was just going to tap a hole in there, throw the tube in this side, and then glue it again. Really MacGyver, really janky way to kind of put it together, but now that this actually threads on here and I can use this braided tubing, I'm definitely going to go more towards this direction. But before we deal with that, I do want to figure out how to seal this ring around here so that no air can escape. I picked up this JB Weld water weld putty. I am going to go ahead and just use some 120 grit sandpaper and scuff up both surfaces just to ensure that the putty has the best chance to adhere to both sides here. That does look pretty good. I don't know if you can really see that here. It's not perfect, but looks okay for now. This is apparently sandable once it dries, so maybe I'll sand it down and make it look nice and smooth. But for now, let's wait for this to dry before we move on. It is now the next day and the putty here has fully cured. So that is nice and solid. So I'm going to go ahead and dump some water into this and pressurize it to see if it holds pressure. Ooh, I see the sides kind of bulging out here a bit. I don't know, I don't think this is pressure rated, but hopefully I won't have to add too much so we won't run into any issues here. It does seem to be holding pressure, so let's go ahead and give this a test. Huh. Okay, that should be plenty here. Ooh. I'm curious because there's only about this much water in here right now if it just needs so much pressure to actually expel that out of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably fill this up a little later, but it seems like it's holding pressure fine. All that's left to do is to replace this nozzle here with this garden hose sprayer. And to do that, I did pick up a couple of things. What I picked up was this garden hose to 1/2 inch PVC adapter. And then I got this 1/2 inch plug for PVC. So that fits in there nicely like that. I'll go ahead and glue that in. But before I do that, I'm going to tap a hole the same diameter as this braided tubing here. And hopefully I'll be able to just push that in and once again putty around it or silicone around it to secure it there. So I was going to use the water weld putty again, but we do have such a tight fit on here that I think we can get away with just hot gluing around the inside of this cap. That way it can set up a lot quicker. Now that our hot glue is pretty much set, I'm going to have to glue these two pieces here together. We'll get a nice glob on the inside and another layer around the perimeter of this here. And then we can push these together and twist them to make sure that we have good coverage along the whole thing. And that should be pretty good. Okay. Now we just have to wait for that to dry, which shouldn't take very long. And we can finally test this. The cement is pretty much all dry now, so now all that's left is to screw on all that's left to do is to hook up and screw on our garden hose nozzle. So once we go ahead and do that, we can take this outside, fill it up with some water, pressurize the whole system, make sure there's no leaks, and give it a test. I don't want to pressurize it too much because I don't know what the limit of this container is. So let's go ahead and test this out. And here we go. Okay, let's see. Let's give it a little bit more pressure. And that's not working at all. So I did want to see if maybe changing the hose size would help with the flow. Now I know it's also a pressure related issue, but maybe the volume of the tube would help with increasing the output. So I went ahead and replaced it with a 3/8 inch tube instead of the 1/4 that was already on there. Unfortunately, Home Depot didn't have any of the braided version of this, so if this ends up working, I'll end up replace this with an actual pressure rated tubing. But for now, let's go ahead and pump this up and give it a shot. All right. Woohoo. That is actually much better. And all the settings seem to be working here. Tone, let's see, let's give it a little more pressure. Not bad. Center. I think the center version is still the best one out of all of them. So let's go ahead and keep pumping. See how much pressure we can get out of this. Oh, that's not bad. The next thing I want to try. Oh, am I even recording? The next thing I want to try is to see how long this will actually run for with it fully pressurized. I'm just going to prop the nozzle up here because that's probably the height I would be using it around. So let's go ahead and lock this in place and start the timer. With the container fully pressurized, it seemed like I was getting about 1.5 minutes of runtime before I had to go ahead and repressurize the container. This is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how this ended up turning out. I don't really plan on running this for prolonged periods. It's more for just washing dishes or my hands or spraying down general things on a campsite or taking it surfing, things like that. Overall, it's going to be much cheaper than those commercial sort of rinse kits. And it holds a lot more water than those as well, so it should last way longer as well. And I don't have to worry about any batteries or charging whenever it gets low. I simply just pump it up and increase the pressure in the container. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. If you guys have any other suggestions or know of any containers that won't have a tendency to maybe explode, let me know in the comments below. If you found the video useful in any sort of way, give it a like and make sure you subscribe for any future videos. Thanks for watching.